Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the CA Media Podcast, the show that allows you to come in your own unique way. I'm your host, Clyde Anderson, and today I have Syracuse Mayoral candidate Jimmy Oliver on, and he'll talk about why he's running for mayor of Syracuse and his vision for the city. The show is brought to you by Visionary Minds, Public Relations and Media. If you have any media consultations and or inquiries, you can contact Tammy Reese at visionarymindsny@gmail.com, and she will gladly get back in contact with you. So today I have Jimmy Oliver on, and he will come his own unique way. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome Jimmy Oliver to the CABA podcast. How you doing, Mr. Oliver?
I am doing well. I'm doing well. Thank you so much for having me. Glad
My
to be
pleasure.
here.
My pleasure. How's your day going so far today?
Day's going great. Woke up this morning, in my
Mhm.
right mind and, got up and worked out at 5 a.m., to get my day started and had some great, times at work and then went in the community to talk to some folks. But overall, pretty good day. Pretty good day.
A productive day. I like that. Starting the day off with workout in mind, and then I guess as we all do, 9 to 5 or however people work, entrepreneur hitting the pavement and then talking to the community has to be very effective, like for your day-to-day work, I would assume.
Mhm, mhm. Absolutely. I mean, this is what I grew up doing. These are what leaders in my community did. They not only worked in my schools, but they were in my community. And I knew, I was like, I want to be like Mr. Hicks. I want to be like Miss Williams. I want to be like Miss Reed. They're in the community. People like them. They're doing things that are fun and exciting. And you get to make, your community better. And that's what I wanted to do. I started off, I wanted to be a teacher. I had really, really good teachers. I went to Delaware school on the west side, and they just was amazing. I was a tough kid in school, and they just really poured into me and didn't give up, on me. And they saw my potential before I saw it, and they just kept, you know, inspiring me and cultivating me to make the right decisions. And then I wanted to be a firefighter, a police officer, a
Oh,
lawyer, um, a coach, all those different things. And then I, landed with the Boys and Girls Club, which is a nonprofit in Syracuse, where I got my start at 20 years old to work with teens. And that's where I, really started beating the pavement, meeting people where they are, businesses, schools, other nonprofits, collaboration, doing what you say you're going to do, really inspiring teenagers at the time to graduate from high school, surround themselves by positive people, make good choices, introduce them to the business owners, the movers and shakers, because I said at some point you're going to come
fresh.
in contact, things of that nature. So yeah, this is what I've done, since I could do it, and I just love it, because you get to learn a lot and you get to listen a lot. And again, most importantly, you get to meet people where they are and really understand where they're coming from, what their needs are.
You basically stole my first question of like
Oh,
telling us.
sorry.
No, 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 you're fine. You're perfect. Telling us a little bit about your background.
Yeah.
But like what like truly inspired you to run for mayor of Syracuse?
Wow. Again, never heard of the mayor before. Again, it started at my elementary school, Delaware Primary. My first grade teacher, she used to see me walking up and down, no matter what time it was, up Geddes Street, and she nicknamed me the mayor of Geddes Street.
For real.
And I was like, what? The mayor, the worst kid in the building? You're naming, you're putting this in the universe for me to be mayor. And I just really loved the name, and I loved to, be called the mayor of Getter Street. And then as I got older, um, I said, I want to be mayor of Syracuse, but what is that? I didn't know. I didn't know any politicians. I didn't have that in my family. And so started with student council, representing my class.
Was
And
that in
for
high school or was it
no, that was
elementary?
elementary school.
Okay.
Elementary school. It was myself and a good friend of mine, Matthew. He was the alternate if I wasn't there. And we just got to go to the principal and talk about the needs of our fifth and sixth grade classmates. You know, hey, we want to do a celebration. We want to have an end of the year cookout. We want to go on field trips. And we bring those different ideas along with other students from other classes. And you had to be elected to do
Yeah.
that. So the classmates had to elect you to do that. Then, done that for a couple years. And then I went off to middle school, Levy Middle School, and I ran for vice president of
Mm.
student council. Unfortunately, I didn't have the outcome that I had, but the young lady that I lost to was great. She was smart. And at that time, she was the best, person to represent our seventh and eighth grade classes. And then, getting to meet the mayor. When I was in elementary school, he came and spoke.
Who was the mayor
Uh,
at the time? I'm sorry.
Roy Bernardi. Roy
Okay.
Bernardi. He was a Republican mayor. He was the first one, and I was like, "Oh, that's the mayor right there," and he was very intriguing because during that time, the Latino population was growing in my community, and he came and gave his keynote speech in Spanish, which I was blown away. I'm like, wow, this guy speaks fluent Spanish, and I was like, wow, I got to be able to figure out how to do that. And so I got to see it. And then again, volunteering, doing odds and end jobs, what did I do? My first job really was trying to get people to purchase the Post Standard. So going to knock on people's doors
Okay.
saying, "Hey, you want to get the
Like a
Monday through,
delivery guy.
the delivery guy?" And I was 13. I did okay. So, people turned me away, but you kept going back and honing in your message,
Hello?
and I did that, and um, yeah,
I'm
if I
not
could
sure if we
back up
lost
just a little
connection.
bit, I know you talked about.
Yeah, I
Um,
think we lost connection a little bit.
oh, can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you now.
Okay. Yeah, a little bit about my background. Born and raised here in the city of Syracuse. I was raised by a single mom. She raised seven of us. She was on public assistance, worked hard. My school gave her her first job. Not only did they cultivate me and my brothers and sisters, but they also cultivated my mom at the time. She was raising us, and, my principals and folks would come and talk to her, and then she ended up working at the rescue mission, things of that nature. And then she finished out her career as a home health aide where she was taking care of the elderly and the sick. My mother taught us, never forget where we came from. Always love on your siblings, your family. Um, and really just be the best people you can be, be better. She used to say, be better than I am. I want you to
Correct.
do that. And of course, with the challenges and the obstacles that my mom went through, there was no way, I don't care where I go and how far I go, I'll never be better than my mother. She did amazing things. She raised seven of us on her own through a lot of struggles. And that's why I'm here, because of that foundation of survival, of never forgetting where you come from, doing the right thing, owning up to your mistakes. I've been fortunate enough to be able to be here. And
Correct.
yeah, and so went to Levy Middle School, as I said, went to Henniger High School, first to graduate from high school in my family, first to go off to college in my family. I have seven siblings, as I said. I had to be the lead, the leader. I was number five, and I had two younger sisters after me. And whatever I was going to do, they were going to do. And a lot of my mentors, my mom, and others said, if you continue to track down the path you're going to do, your sisters are going to do that because you're
Right.
there, and I took that very serious. I didn't want them to make, tough decisions. I didn't want them to have kids at a young age. I wanted them to graduate from high school. I wanted them to go off to college. And fortunately enough, they were able to do that because they saw it. They saw a model. Prior to that, we didn't have that model. No one in my family ever went to college, so I didn't know what that was. And so my school and my neighborhood, being exposed to friends and different backgrounds, I was able to see that. And they just inspired me to do that. And so I was able to do that. Just to give you a little bit, just that
You're fine.
history.
No, you're
Yeah.
fine. You're perfect.
Mhm.
So, like, what some of your personal experiences or values that shape your approach to leadership?
Mhm. My first job, my first real job after I left college, as a sophomore. As I said, nobody had done it before. I didn't want to
Right.
go to college. I just wanted to work, to provide for myself. But I was given that opportunity. But I got my first job at the Boys and Girls Club. That was the best, literally the best job I've ever had, because they inspired us, they coached us, we pushed the mission of what the Boys and Girls Club stood for, and then we infused that into the young people that we were working with. Our job was to be preventable. How can we prevent things from happening? We had a proactive method, not a reactive method. We were able to talk, again, meet people where they are, programming. We didn't have a lot of the social medias that we had. We had to print out flyers, go to football games, go to basketball games, go to the corner where all the kids go hang out after school and advertise and ask people to, hey, come to this 4-on-4, come to this leadership program, Keystone, come do this torch club program. We do field trips, we do X, Y, and Z. There will be rewards, there'll be food. That's how we got kids to come. And we had to be consistent. We always had to think outside the box. But the Boys and Girls Club, they sent me on a training to Connecticut. Was with other people from across upstate New York. And
Yeah.
we were there Monday through Friday. We had to get up at 6 a.m. and do,
Oh,
breakfast, 7 a.m. We got in the program and just learning the history of who the Boys and Girls Club was and why we were doing the work that we said we wanted to do. A full-time staff, you're going to be programming, you're going to be building partnerships, you're going to be doing all these things. And, I know the mission of the Boys and Girls Club to inspire and enable all young people, especially those who need us the most, to become young, productive, positive citizens. Our Boys and Girls Club pledge: I believe in God, the right to worship according to my own faith and religion. I believe in America and the American way of life, the Constitution and the Bill of Rights. I believe in fair play, honesty, and sportsmanship. I believe in my Boys and Girls Clubs, which stands for all these things. And that's the message we got. And that's our foundation, a sense of belonging, a sense of youthfulness, a sense of competency. Though, those youth development programs that we were able to put in front of kids were important.
right.
And the kids who went through those programs 23 years ago, they graduated from high school. Some went off to college. Some started businesses. Some moved away. And that's what our job was to do, to get them to help the parents, give the kids a different perspective, to hold them accountable to things that they needed to do: time management, working together, taking adversity. How do you get over those things? And we had programs that help kids do that. And they sent me all over the country so I could see it
Mhm.
done, because I thought I was good at 20. I'm the best, blah blah blah. And then you go to some place like Minnesota and you see their teens, raising $50,000. They're helping the homeless.
Mhm.
They got a sponsorship with NASCAR. Their kids come up, they got gear, matching gear. They're in, representing their clubs, and that just gave us more
Motivation.
to strive. Yeah, motivation to strive. Okay, we thought we were good. Okay, Now look what we have to push. It's always, pushing that envelope, setting the expectation here so
Right.
that they continue to thrive. They're going to fail, but at least they're going to keep pushing.
The
And so,
expectation. Hmm.
expectation. So the Boys and Girls Club, and I failed. I was young. I was young, man. Every mistake you could make, I made it. And but it made it made me better. I didn't like it at the time. I didn't recognize it at the time. But as you reflect and look back to where I am now, that foundation of that first job of training, cultivating, training, coach, it helped out tremendously. And so we got partners like Syracuse University, National Grid, Anner and Microwave, Colonial Laundromat, all the county folks, they're pouring into the Boys and Girls Club. So our kids are seeing these folks on a consistent basis. So you can see what's possible.
Right.
You may not see this at home, but when you come to the Boys and Girls Club, this is what we're going to expose you to. And then you have to make a decision which way you want to go. And that's where it started. The hard work, the dedication, the failure, um, the adversity, advocating for folks when people don't believe in what you're doing, when people tell you no, when people don't tell you, hey, you only got $500 to do programming for the next 3 months. How you gonna make it work? What are you gonna do? How can you be creative? Those relationships that you build,
Right.
how do you use those? And the Boys and Girls Club, really, I am successful. Why I've had the positions that I've had throughout my career, whether it's here in Syracuse or whether it was in Richmond, Virginia, Lynchburg, Virginia, Atlanta, Georgia, and now back here in Syracuse, is because of that foundation that the Boys and Girls Club invested into us staff 23 years ago.
Yeah, I see that the Boys and Girls Club has provided you great leadership throughout your life, and it's evident to what you're trying to accomplish as you are a candidate for the mayor of Syracuse.
Mhm.
Let's talk about your campaign priorities and like your
Mhm.
platform. What are like three top priorities for your campaign?
Yeah, it's simple. It's what's made me. It's the schools, neighborhoods, and tackling quality of life crimes. So our schools, literacy, homelessness, supporting the superintendent, lead water in our school water system. Those are things. When I say schools, supporting family, that's what I'm talking about. Our neighborhoods, some are thriving, but the places that need us the most are not, and they have been for a long time. So we need to invest in our neighborhoods. We need to invest in small businesses. We need to invest um, in our roads, in our processes of codes. Those are things. And then quality of life crimes. Breaking into cars, graffiti, jaywalking, running red lights, running stop signs. All of those things are at its all-time high. And in my administration, those are things that we're going to focus. I know it's not the flashy stuff you hear other folks talking about, but what it's going to do is set a solid foundation for us, because our foundation is shaken. Our schools, our neighborhoods, and crime is the foundation of who we are. We can't do those other things if we are not tackling those issues.
Right. So, how would you plan to address economic development and like some and job creations in Syracuse?
Well, you got to build new partnerships. There's a lot of folks in our town that want to do it, with my relationships with Syracuse University, with my relationships with businesses in town, with what I've created in the police department, other counties. I want to bring those models here in Syracuse, but we have to start small and we have to do it in phases. We really do. We have to have stuff for our 13 to 15-year-olds. We have to have things for our 16 to 18-year-olds. We have to have things for our 19 to 25. But we have to do job development. I don't want to just give people jobs just to give them to them.
Correct.
I want them to be able to keep them. And we have to be able to leverage our relationships because we're going to come in a deficit. We're going to have a deficit. We know that we're going to have a deficit. So those relationships that I built with these corporations and these organizations, they made a lot of money on our city, and they need to help invest
Give
in
back. Okay.
invest in making that better. It's going to take all of us. My track record has been bringing people together. We can't divide folks. And one of the initiatives, that I will bring, that I haven't really talked about, is bringing people from poverty to progress. People keep saying, oh, we want to end poverty and X, Y, and Z, and we want to help, but no one has really given it a name or have a solution to do it.
I know I was saying how Syracuse is like the top 15 poorest cities in America, but you were saying something else. I'm sorry.
Yes, we're number 3.
Wow.
Yeah, we're number 3. We're at 92% poverty rate here in the city of Syracuse. That's
That's
where,
insane.
yeah, that's where we are. That's where we are because we're not cultivating, we're not developing individuals. We're not giving folks opportunities, hand ups. We're not giving that. We're not sharing our knowledge. We're not sharing our capacity, our relationships. And that's why we continue to fall backwards. But with this plan from poverty to progress, you have to have entities that are invested in this. I was able to see it in Lynchburg, Virginia. We had 23% poverty. And the mayor and the vice mayor at their state of the city said, this is what we're going to tackle. And this is what they did. They brought affluent people with resources. They brought middle class people. They brought folks who were poor. And then they brought transportation. They brought jobs. They brought people who could help with transportation, help with, bringing grocery stores into our community. All these different things, we broke out into sessions and came up with a plan. The goal was to target 50 families and then work our way up. And we were able to move that needle. But if we're saying we want to help folks who are in poverty, we have to put a plan out there. We have to be able to bridge relationships and got to bring people together, the right people, not the same people we've been having, not the same people who don't think it can happen. You got to bring new people who are willing to put the work in, roll their sleeves up, and come up with a plan, then executing it and making sure it happens.
Amen.
And I recognize that Micron is coming, and everybody's talking about Micron coming and X, Y, and Z, and I think that's great. I think that's great. But I think I believe we got the short end of the stick. They're going to invest $100 billion in clay, and Syracuse only get 500 million.
That doesn't make any sense.
It doesn't make any sense, and that's $50 million over the next 10 years. And so I guess whoever went in and negotiated that, I don't think they looked at our deficiencies, where we struggle.
Right.
You talking about housing, why we didn't have that conversation with Micron? How can you help with housing? How can you help with our roads? How can you help with our water system?
I-81.
I-81. I mean, they given we're giving $10 million to the new STEAM school. I get that. That's wonderful. But the things that are plaguing our city, those are things that should be on the front line. And that's our poverty, that's our streets, that's our water, that's our schools. And job development. It's great that you're going to build office downtown. That's great. But what I would have asked for if I was in the room with them, I want your top 15 people that work for your company to come and help in my administration, to come to us and help us tackle and find solutions to these issues that are plaguing our city.
Amen.
Because if we do that,
Correct.
then the resources come.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? And so that's what would have been my approach and my ask
To
to
Micron.
Micron.
So about let's talk about like public safety and community
Yeah.
relations a little bit. Uh, how would you plan to strengthen the trust between law enforcement and the communities of color? As we've seen like a couple of days ago, like I'm in New York, Brooklyn currently, but I see that on Facebook and Syracuse.com that a couple of officers did if I'm not mistaken, a traffic stop, and two African American males was detained. I'm guessing they were eventually let go, but the commissioner, if I'm not mistaken, of Syracuse Police was like they will do a retraining with those officers, but he kind of justified what they did. How do you how do you answer to that as mayor?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. What I can tell you is I've been the director of community engagement for the Syracuse Police Department for the last 4 years. And so my job is to connect kids, cops, and communities. I started an organization which you're probably familiar with, PAL, the Police Athletic/Activities League. It's a national organization, started in New York City back in 1940, 1950, where they bring officers to engage young people through sports, through mentorship, through guest speaking, and so my first job coming into the police department during 2021, if you remember 2020, 2021, you remember the Breonna Taylor, the George Floyds, the marches all across this country about law enforcement. And we had a lot of those marches here in Syracuse.
I
And
was
what
at
the
one of them.
Yeah, I was
Yeah,
too. Yeah. And what the community said is that they wanted better relationships with the police department. They wanted officers who reflect our community. And so the mayor and the chief of police then, Kenton Buckner, asked me. I left Parks and Recreation as the deputy commissioner to come over and lead this effort. I tell you, I was not sold on coming over to do this because of just personal things with family, friends. I didn't feel like that's where I needed to be. Um, and it was just just a lot of confusion. And but what we've been able to do over the last 4 years is build a coalition, bring people together. Yes, we know what the issue is. We don't get along. There's been historically where we've been mistreated. We understand that, but what is the solution? How do we move forward? And so I decided to start with 6 to 13 year olds. And for the first year and a half, we did sports, we did STEM, we did swimming, we did art, we did, so many events at the police department because people had never come there before. I said, we have to get people coming here and seeing what this experience is like. They're not seeing me first, they're seeing the person at the front desk.
correct.
Then they're seeing me. So if that experience is good, then they're going to go out and talk about that with their neighbors, with their friends, and relatives, and X, Y, and Z. And so what we've done over the last 4 years is 6,500 kids have went through our program. Black, brown, in between, Asian, Arabic, Muslim, African, white, Latino, everyone has gone. We've had over 300 police officers that have gone through our program, not just from Syracuse Police, but state troopers, Onondaga sheriffs, the district attorney's office, the DeWitt Police Department, Cayuga County, Oswego County, the FBI. Because when I was a kid on the west side on Oswego Street, I would see sheriffs. I would see state troopers. I would see SPD. So I knew it couldn't just be that. And plus, we were at a shortage. So I had to be creative in how I did that. And we've sponsored events. We've done things for the homeless. We've done things for schools. We've read books about the police and me, where there's an author who came and he talked about if you get pulled over, this is what you're supposed to do. But in the police department, these are the different jobs and roles and responsibilities of different officers. And then our kids and our families get to interact with them when things are low instead of when things are high. And so, in order for us to do it, and we're nowhere near where we could be. There's so much more to move forward. We have to have the investment of the Syracuse Police Department be all in. They have not been all in. They've been sporadic at best.
Right. I've noticed that myself
Yeah,
personally, and I'm
yeah,
I'm back downstate, and I know several people in SPD, but
yeah,
then again, like I would desire for them to be out in the community interacting with all of
yeah,
everybody, not just the people that they have favorites with, but people that
yeah,
you normally don't see. You should be
yeah.
able to interact with them.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I can tell you, when the young lady got killed, we did a big thing at her school where we went on Fridays and interacted through volleyball, through tennis, through pizza, having conversations, sitting at tables, officers intermingling, doing art, doing this. Again, we have a community relations department where they go and they do a kids' night out in August, and they do it down at Kirk Park, and they bring all the different agencies down there for that one particular day, and they're doing it. I tell you, we're at so many different events throughout the year, and this is what we haven't done historically. We took humble pie. The community said we weren't doing what we were supposed to do, and we rose to the occasion. We moved
Mm,
the needle, but we're nowhere near
the
where
mark.
we no, no. We have we have so much more to go. Because the goals overarching over what PAL and the Office of Community Engagement do is we want to build officers who live, eat, sleep, and play in this city,
Correct.
who live in neighborhoods like Kirk Ave,
Yeah, I
who
think
live.
that's. I think that I was reading that to be a police officer, you had to like live in the city. If I'm not mistaken, is that
Yeah,
true?
that just came about, you got to do it for 5 years, and X, Y, and Z, and then you can go and move someplace else. But that's one of the things that I believe our community, they want to see you more consistently. They want you living in their neighborhoods. I know what they say nationally that they don't, but again, I'm in this community. I'm on all sides of towns. And when I talk to people one on one, not just me running for office, this is what I've been doing the last 4 years, different spaces with people. They want their neighborhoods to be good. They want law enforcement to live where they live because they want to be safe. They want it to be clean. They want it to be fun, but they want people to come in and be respectful. You know what I'm saying? And that's what I've been trying to articulate to law enforcement, but also to our community. We're trying, we gotta continue to move to the middle. We have to be empathetic. We have to be understanding. Again, we know what the issues are. We know what they are. Now we have to start putting solutions out there and start taking action. And that's what we've been able to do. But as mayor, I mean, again, I've talked to police chiefs all across this country. There's a national PAL conference every year. And when you think of Miami, when you think of Compton, when you think of Detroit, when you think of Buffalo, when you think of Albany, those organizations are being run by police officers. They have built police officers. They have built elected officials. They have built good communities where there's a sense of mutual respect. And that's how I built, Syracuse PAL. A small foundation. There has always been phases, 6 to 13, 14 to 18, and then we want to go to 20 to 25. We want kids interacting throughout their lives. When they go in the street, they get stopped. I want an officer, when they give them their ID, I want them to be, hey, Jimmy Oliver, you and pal.
Right.
And you know what? I'm going to reach out to Jimmy and to see if if you're good. But having that card with that PAL logo, that diffuses the situation.
Right. It does.
It calms the situation down. And again, the mutual respect, what I know is we have more in common than we don't. And the reason why we don't know we have things in common, because we have not sat down and intentionally had a conversation. Because I believe if we do that, we'll find out that we grew up on the same side of town. Yep. Officers grew up in the city, went to the same middle school, went to the same high school, maybe went with your relative, but we don't know that because we haven't been consistent. We haven't been consistent about it and being intentional about it. We want to stay at the problem. We have to start moving to solutions and then executing it on. And so, chief of police, this is not something that's secret. He's going to retire at the end of this administration, Chief Cecil. And what I recognize and what I appreciate is that he has done his course. He don't want to hold on to, to power. You know what I'm saying? Like, right. He don't want to hold on. He recognized that there's other young folks within the police department who are ready to stand up. I've been there for 4 years. I've seen it. I've witnessed it. And they will get consideration. But I will also look at other places and people I've talked to in other states who believe in that protect and serve and community engagement, treating people with respect and making things that a priority. There's folks in Rochester who I met. And so there's a plethora of opportunity there. And talking to officers and talking, captains, lieutenants, detectives during my time in the police department has been valuable. I had to build credibility. I built credibility, not just on words, but action and, and making things happen. So.
All right. I love that. About housing and homelessness, affordable housing is a growing concern, of course, in Syracuse. How would you address the housing insecurities and gentrification that's currently going on in Syracuse?
Yeah. You got to bring a lot of, the mayor, I know he's in charge, but you got to bring some smart people in who can navigate those spaces. But what I know is there's a lot of spaces here in the city.
That's not being used.
Homes in this city that need to be redeveloped and put some love in. And we need to put resources to make that happen. Relationships, with home headquarters, relationships with private businesses, private people who can come in and help. But I also believe how we can help is slash our budget.
Yeah.
Because we keep hiring people. This administration is going to be over, but we keep hiring people, but we say we're going to be in a deficit. But I tell you, the city auditor put out a list of things, and I believe there's more that we can cut and say, hey, this is what we have. Are you willing to match it? This is where we're going to invest those resources in housing, in our schools, to tackle quality of life crimes, to help small businesses, not just the ones who have it, but the ones who haven't had the opportunity. Correct. Because they don't have the relationships, they don't have the connections. We're starting now from the bottom up. This will be a bottom up approach, not a top down approach. This is about people. This is about impact. You know,
Grassroots. Yep.
yeah, and we can't. The top down is not working. And so we need to flip that and start real again investing in the bottom. And so you talked about homelessness. Um, we got Catholic Charities, we got Salvation Army, we got the Rescue Mission. I believe they need more support.
Yeah. I'm a
Um,
firm believer in that. I
yeah.
used to work at Catholic Charities,
Oh, you did.
and yeah, yeah. Uh, I leave it as that. But yeah, I think if we had the support, or if they had the support and have the actual workers that want to do the work to help end homelessness and not continue to add to it, I think Syracuse could uh, be a better place. But if you're continuing adding to the homelessness by not giving them the support that these people, these men and women that need the support, if you're not providing it to them, you're contributing to the cause.
That's right. That's right. And we got to help people. It's great to have some place I can sleep. It's a
Correct.
great place to have somewhere where I can eat. But if you're not cultivating me, encouraging me to be better, to put me around people who have made it, who are like me, it's not going to work. We can't invest $500,000 into the police department to come be reactive,
Correct.
come after the issues happen, then try to come and solve it. That's not SPD's job. That's the rescue mission's job, to have their folks who work there diffuse the
Fully trained
situation. Yeah.
all Catholic charities.
Yeah, you got to come in. You got the mental health specialists, you got the physicians. You have to come in and do that. A lot of times people want police to come in and do that. That's not what they're trained to do. We can help, but if when we show up, oh, look at the police, they treat them this way, they treat them that way. But had the staff been trained to bring those individuals down, then we're in a different situation. Do you have a relationship
Right.
with those individuals who are coming? Do you have a conversation? Does the CEO have a conversation with the folks who come in there? I believe there's other spaces on their property that we could build something nice, so that
Yeah.
there's not a lot of folks out wandering and X, Y, and Z. You're going in there to learn how to, wash your clothes, do job interviews, take your meds, go through therapy. And we want to do that over, I don't know, 6 to 12 months.
And have supportive housing.
Correct.
Actually supportive
Yeah.
housing that's actually working.
Correct.
Not just there just to get someone out. Just all right, we dropped one count, but
Mm-hmm.
there's
Mm-hmm.
other people that still needs the supportive housing, but you're looking over them.
Yeah, I tell you, I talk to school administrators all the time, because you know that there's over, and it's probably more than this. I'm probably lowballing it. There's probably over 1,000, well, probably 5,000 kids who are homeless. They don't
Mm.
got nowhere to go right now. They call them unaccompanied youth. They're couch surfing. They're living in hotels here and there. But a lot of them are kids. They're teenagers. For whatever reason, they're on the street. And so one of the things that I learned when I was in Atlanta, I worked with an organization called Showcase Group. And it was a group home model. So the kids came, they stayed there, they ate there, they had adults who could supervise them, take them places, hold them accountable, give them tools. And then as they got older, then they, whether it was a job, whether it was going to college, whether it was going to AmeriCorps or Job Corps, they gave them some track. They gave them some tools to then be self-sufficient. But there are some folks in the school system who know their kids are homeless. They said, I wish we had homes where kids could go stay so that they would come to school. So they would have some place to shower. They can have some place to eat, some place that can be clean, safe, fun. I would love to run something like that and have them on different sides of town. We have all these vacant properties.
Yep. And
Let's
land,
put, yeah,
not
in
just
land.
property.
Yeah, let's put it to use, because that's what the kids are looking for. That's why they go to games. That's why they make these tough decisions. They're in survival mode. The pandemic put them in super survival mode. And that's why our crime is high, because their neighborhoods are struggling. Everything is beat down. But I know there's a side on the West Side. I know there's a side in Sedgwick. Those are nice areas. Those people leave their cars, they're trying to find food. Some of them are just doing it just to be doing it. But the
Correct.
majority of them, they're hungry. They're going into Family Dollar stealing. They ain't stealing, clothes. They're stealing food.
Food, because they're hungry.
Yeah. And so we have to create safe spaces with the right people, the right adults to come in and inspire these kids, because they can do it. And they out here surviving now. Imagine if you give them the tools, you educate them, you encourage them, you show up for them. They will rise to the occasion. But folks are not investing. We give them these quick jobs. And then when it's time to pay them, people on vacation, these kids can't get their check. Because somebody on vacation. They weren't on vacation when they was putting in that work. And then they get mad because the kid is showing out, saying, hey, where's my check? I worked. This is the day I'm supposed to get it, but they don't get it 2 or 3 weeks after the fact. That's wrong. And then say, well, they live on this side of town. They ghetto. What do you mean they ghetto? They put their work in, they put their time, they showed up. They should be paid. A lot of these folks don't have it. And we taking advantage. And that's not right. That one of my mentors will call that poverty pimping. We get the kids to come in and do the work, and then we don't do our due diligence to make sure that they get paid on time. And then, get upset because come on. We need people who care about people. I'm not your, like I said, I'm not your traditional politician. I've done the work, and I've been allowing these other folks who got elected to do the work, and they're falling short over and over and over again. But there's a demographic that keeps voting them in, and that's why it's important for us, our community, the other demographics, people to register to vote
and show
learn up. Learn the process, understand it, because you have more power than you think you do. You have more power, and we need to build that up. We need to bring people to the table, coach them, develop them, expose them, and then allow them to go out and do the work. And when they fall short, bring them back and coach them some more. Then put them back out there. But you got to give them a chance. You got to give them a hand up, not a handout. Got to give them a hand up. Give them something that they're going to learn, and then that they can then go out and use it.
And then teach someone else how to use it.
Exactly. That's what we have to do. This time where we're in now, we need people to do the work and do what you say you're going to do. And ruffle some feathers if you have to, because people in our city are struggling every single day. And they're expecting us to stand up for them, especially when we put them in office. And that's what I'm, so that's who I'm going to be. That's who I'm going to be. I'm in this community. I eat, sleep, play here. I enjoy being, I can go anywhere in this city, and people are hurting. And it's time for a leader who recognize that, who have been through adversity, who've been given opportunities, who've been coached, who've been exposed. And now I'm here. They said one day you're going to be here. You're going to have a voice and people are going to listen to your voice. And it's your time to advocate. And that's what I'm doing. And that's why I jumped in this race, because right now it is time. People are fighting against this campaign. People are, they
Yeah, I
nitpicking.
see.
People, they got all the money, they got all the people who are supporting them, and they trying to knock me out of this race, because what they recognize is I work hard, I do what I say I'm gonna do, and it ain't about me. It ain't never been about me. It's been about the people we serve, these neighborhoods we serve, our schools we serve. That's who it's about. I'm about helping people, regardless of what you look like, how much money you make. You know what I'm saying? And those are the type of leaders we need, who are going to stand on business, who are going to stand up to their friends, who are going to stand up to people who are trying to keep us in the situation that we're in. And that's what my administration is going to be about. We're training the next generation, because I don't want to hold on to power. Who am I bringing after me? You best believe we're going to have 20, 50 people vying for this job, because we're going to expose them to it. Not going to be afraid. Oh my God, they're going to come and run. They're going to run against me. Good. Good. That's good. That's good for us. We need to have more. We need to have more personalities, backgrounds, perspectives to do this. Not just the same people who've been around for 30, 40 years, who've had their shot. It's time for a change.
So how would your, in reference to like leadership and governance, a couple more questions. How would you plan to work with the Common Council and other city departments to ensure smooth governance of the
Yeah,
city of Syracuse?
absolutely. It's a team effort. I want to be hand in hand with the Common Council, because it's important. I want to know what their vision is. I want to know topics they're passionate about, and have them go out and represent that. It can't just be me. Yeah, I can come up with ideas. Yeah, I can do that. But Common Council should be working hand in hand with the mayor's office,
Correct.
coming up with the plan.
And
And
ideas, and then execute
yeah,
it.
yeah. Like what do you need on the north side? What do you need on the south side? What do you need on the west side? South side. And then we build our plan on those things. Phase one, quarter one, we're gonna do this. Quarter two, we're gonna do this. Quarter three, we're gonna do this. So we spreading the wealth around. Nobody has to wait. You just gotta wait 3 months. It's better than 7 years. You
I'm
know what I'm
not.
saying? Yeah. Like, so if we're doing it quarterly, we're doing the people's work.
Correct.
We're doing the people's work. And yeah, we're gonna disagree and this and that, but at the end of the day, this is not about us. It's about the people that we serve, our residents, our taxpayers. Even if you ain't a taxpayer, you know, our job is to serve you too. And if you're not a voter, it's our job to serve you too.
So, what's like one thing that the current or previous administration overlooked that you're willing to address in
Neighborhood.
your first 90 days in the office?
Look, neighborhoods. I'm sorry. Our neighborhoods. I'm talking about Crowley Street. I'm talking about Kellogg. I'm talking about Ostrander. I'm talking about Butternut. State Street. These places that you don't hear about. Well, when you drive through, you see the struggle.
Mm-hmm.
It's real. That's what we're going to work on the first 90 days. And then after that, it'll be our schools, making sure our schools are developing our kids, making sure our kids are reading on the level they're supposed to when they enter our school. to make sure we're building relationships with our kids, with our families, to help them thrive and to help with their deficiencies or what um, they're struggling with. But if a parent has reached their capacity to do the teaching, it's our job to help fill in the gap. Because that's what people did for me. My mom reached her capacity, but she was humble enough.
She did it with 7 children, right? Correct.
That's right, 7 kids, but she was humble enough to ask and to receive it. And her son is running for mayor of Syracuse because of that. Because people didn't have to live with me, have to be related to me, to help me, to believe in me, to understand what we were seeing every single day at our house. When he comes here, when his sisters come here, we're going to make sure they're loved and supported and guided and developed and exposed. And then they have to make a decision what they're going to do. And that's what we, and the quality of life crimes. I mean, all 3 of those things go hand in hand, but if I had to pick, one, it would be the neighborhoods, because what Malcolm Gladwell, one of my favorite books, is The Tipping Point. And he talks about neighborhoods in depth, about what neighborhoods can do and how they can destroy certain things. He says that it's better to come from a good neighborhood than to come from a good family. Because what kids do, if your neighborhood bad and your kids going out there, they're going to follow their peers.
Yep.
Seeing someone get up for work, how that elevates graduation rates. He talks about that. Talks about quality of life issues and crimes. If you tackle those basics and hold people accountable, they won't do those big crimes, because they see how you're holding accountable at these quality of life crimes. Those things are going to help us thrive, but we have to put the time and the resources, the manpower around it. Each of the departments in my administration, their job will be to go into our schools and talk about how our juniors and seniors can come and be a part of a job that you can do for 20 years and retire and then go do something else if you choose, and have a 401k, have a retirement, and go live. Our kids got to live to be able to see it. Right, and right now they're not living long enough because there's no hope. There's no empathy. There's no follow through. Only when it's on the news, we want to do something. But there's times when those things are not around that we need to be proactive, come up with solutions, and then take action. And in my administration, we will do that. It'll be every department head, commissioner, chief of police. We're in schools constantly, giving our kids different perspectives, different jobs that they can aspire to, that they can ask questions about. Because that's how we're going to build that tax base that they're talking about. They want more people to pay taxes. We're short. But that's how you do it. You got to develop people, got to coach people. And right now we're not doing that. And those are things that we gotta focus on. And we got to help families and all those things in between. It's time for a fresh look, fresh set of eyes. I ain't made no promises to nobody but the people that I'm going to be serving. And if you want to be a part of elevating our city in our neighborhoods and our schools, then I truly want you to look at what my campaign is standing on and what my track record is and my journey to get to this point, because it has prepared me to get here and to do this.
All right, one last question, and then we could do like a rapid fire questions.
Okay.
Vision and legacy. If elected, where do you see the city of Syracuse?
Say that one more time.
If elected, where do you see the city of Syracuse in 5 years?
I see our neighborhoods thriving. I see our kids, our schools thriving, and I see our crime low. And I see people moving here. I'm cultivating our people who live, eat, sleep, play here, giving people opportunities. That's what I see. I see us thriving for real, not just this slogan. No, you will see it, not just in certain spaces, but you will see it all across this city, because we have redirected our resources in the right spaces and places.
Beautiful answer. Beautiful answer. Legacy. What kind of legacy would you like to leave behind after, or if whenever you become elected and after you serve your term?
That he did what he said he would do. That he impacted everyone's lives, but especially those who needed it the most, to make our city better. He helped, he helped people, and he did what he said he was going to do. Yeah.
All right, Jimmy Oliver, thank you for sharing your thoughts, and even coming on the CAB podcast. Syracuse will be hosting the Mayoral general election. Was it in June? If I'm not mistaken.
That's primary in June.
Primary
Yes.
in June, and that general election is in November.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah, if you want to find out more about me, look at my website, jimmyoliverforthepeople.com. It's the same for my LinkedIn, Instagram, and Facebook, Jimmy Oliver for the People, because that's who it's going to be about. That's what this campaign is going to be about. Love to hear from you. Love to come meet you where you are, to hear what you want our city to be. And then we got to build a coalition to make that happen. But that's going to take us voting, registering the vote, and showing up when it's time to vote, because our time is now. We can't wait any longer.
Sound like it's live for John Cena. The time is up.
Yeah, but look, I was a Hulk Hogan fan. I saw something on Facebook today: Ultimate Warrior versus Hulk Hogan in WrestleMania. I tell you, I cried so much because I was a Hulk Hogan fan, and
he lost.
Yeah, that was a tough one. But yeah, I appreciate you giving me the opportunity to come on. When you reached out, I was like, absolutely. I just wanted to make sure I shared my story with the right platform, and someone who was going to be objective, someone who was going to ask the questions and allow me to answer. And I truly appreciate that. You did that. And I appreciate you sharing me with your viewers. It means a lot.
Thank you so much. I appreciate the opportunity to have you on the platform. Got a quick rapid fire questions. Yep. It'll be like 2 minutes.
Okay.
You ready?
Yes.
Okay. Loosen it up a little bit. All right. So if you wasn't running for the city of Syracuse, what would you like to be doing?
Serving our community, continue to work with families, our schools, bringing our police together.
If you had $5 million to invest in the city of Syracuse, how would you distribute that money, those funds?
Yep. Neighborhoods, schools, quality of life crimes.
Your favorite place to travel outside of Syracuse or New York State?
Um, Spain.
Okay. Current book you're reading, if you are.
Oh gosh, I got quite a few. oh, people skills.
Who's that by, if I may ask?
Oh, I can't think of the author right now.
It's all right. It's all
But
right.
it's people skills. Yeah, it's a good book. It's a good. I'm reading several. Self awareness. Your inner excellence. Yeah, it's a few of them. But yeah, they're all teaching me something about what I'm going through now. So,
All right, a couple more questions. Uh, Favorite restaurant to eat at in Syracuse?
ooh, wow. Um, hmm, Favorite restaurant. I'm gonna have where I grew up. There's a couple. The original one is called John D's. It's a Latino
Okay,
restaurant
I've been there. Yep.
on Gator Street. Originator. And I have to say another one is the China House, which is on the west side. It's in the Geddes Plaza. I've been going there since it opened in 1992. The
Wow.
same people own it to this day. Yeah, so those are two of my favorites that I like to go to.
Yeah, I've heard John D's through my bishop, Brian Hill Senior, Brian K
Okay,
Hill Senior.
yeah.
So like I've been there numerous of times, and like every third Saturdays, one of the elders go get food there to bring it to like our men's group. So
Okay.
yeah, yeah,
And
great
Don
spot.
Juan's is good too. Don
Don
Juan's
Juan's
is
good
good.
too. Yeah.
Yeah, Don Juan's good too. But I gotta say John D's. They've always held me down, even when I was, speaking my broken Spanish going in there. The grandmother was so nice and so just she just listened to me and make mistakes. And she was like, I know what you want, and but John D's is my favorite. Yeah.
People Skills, is that by Robert Bolton or is it Patrick King? Or trying
I'm gonna go. Yeah, I'm
looking
gonna go
at
grab it. Hold on. Yeah, Robert.
Robert Bolton. Okay.
Yeah, Robert Bolton. Yep.
All
Yep.
right, one more question. Where do you see yourself in the next 10 years?
Hmm. Hmm. Running for governor.
Okay.
Yeah, 10 years. If we do 2 terms, yeah, running for governor. Mhm. Um, yeah. Um, yeah. I was gonna say Congress, but we got a good congressman. But yeah, I would love, someone mentioned that to me probably 7 years ago. They said, "Hey, you could be governor." I'm like, "Yeah, right." Yeah, okay. They said, that's my prophecy. So I'll say that.
Okay.
If we do well, we do well. We do what we're supposed to do, and we let God lead us. We'll be where we need to be.
Amen. All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you again, Mr. Jimmy Oliver, for joining the CA Media podcast. If you would like to be a guest on the CA Media podcast, you can leave me an email at camediapodcast@gmail.com. You can follow us on TikTok, X, Instagram, Facebook. Twitter is X. So at CA Media Podcast. I am Clyde Anderson. Thank you for allowing Jimmy Oliver to come on the show in his own unique way. I will catch y'all on the flip side.
Thank you so much.
My
Appreciate it.
pleasure. All right, take care.
You too.